Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about my final project for Min 340. And what I did for my final project is that I created a maze game, and I based it off of the lawn mowing assignment and also the Lab 6 part of the Pac-Man assignment where we learned how to put in a timer and a score counter. And and of course I made a few differences to my game as well. So the background story is that it's Christmas Eve and Santa and his reindeer are on their way delivering presents all over the world. However, one present accidentally fell out of Santa's bag. The bag was still slightly open from one of the previous deliveries, and that the present fell into a dark, dense forest. And so Santa calls on Rudolph to use his shiny nose and find the missing present in the forest. However, this will only cause a delay in the delivery schedule, and Rudolph will only have less than a minute to find the present. Also, he must avoid crashing into any of the trees or he will get hurt if he does. And the point of the game is that you control Rudolph to go through the maze and help him find the present before the timer runs out. And so these are a few of the images that I created for the game. I just wanted to create some of my own images. I all made them using Photoshop, and they all measure 64 by 64 pixels. In terms of the tree and the snow images, they will make up like multiple instances. Like the tree will be make up the border and the obstacles throughout the maze, and the snow will be the actual path that Rudolph has to follow. So there's Rudolph, and this is the present that he has to find within the maze. So once you reach that present, then the game will end and you will win the game. And then this is what the final map looks like. This is what happens like when you display it on a web browser, and in this case I used Google Chrome. So you've got the timer right down here and a little scoreboard right here. It doesn't like really count up any score points. I just decided like, oh, once you reach the present you'll be awarded 100 points. And then this is the game message that will show like what's going on in the game. So just use the arrow keys to help Rudolph find the missing present. And I'll go right into the code and show what it looks like. So obviously you need to start the HTML code like this. Put in a header so that you can give it a title, and then the style, and then use the CSS style elements, which will be used to show the divs in the game, and then of course use the script tags to show the JavaScript. And so here's my code, and then I created the CSS classes for five different things. So time is going to be used for the timer, and which will be this part right here. And then score will be the actual score, the little scoreboard right here. And then the stage will be like the entire game map itself. It measures, it's 712 pixels by 485 pixels, so that takes up most of the web browser, so you can definitely see what's going on in there. And then the cell is going to be each individual block within the map. So like where all the trees are, like these are all cells. The snow is all cells, like everything you can see in a block, that's a cell. And then P is just the game message. You can make it like any kind of font you want, or how big or small you want it to be. I just designed it this way, so that's the actual game message right there. And then once you finish creating all of these, then you create them as divs on the actual HTML page. and then make sure to call them time, score, stage, and in this case I put output, which the output actually displays the game message based on events going on in the game. And now I get to the JavaScript part. And the first thing I do is that I create a timer. So I create my time and my score, which are variables that will store the time and the score. 6, I set it at 6 seconds, and then it'll actually display the message like time equals time and score is score. And I'll go ahead and do a live preview on this, show you what it looks like. So there's the timer, you can see it's counting down, and there's the actual scorecard. And don't worry about that later. So I create a timer, and then it's going to count down, and then this 1000 part right here is actually milliseconds, so it's measuring in milliseconds. So it's actually measuring, like you put in 6 and then it'll measure at 6,000 milliseconds, but that's just an extra detail. That's just how it counts down. And then you go through the countdown function, and as long as the time is greater than 0 seconds, then you decrement, which is the actual countdown itself. And then once it hits 0, then the pop-up window will show up saying time's up, and then the game will end. You probably saw that little pop-up window when I first showed you the browser. And then I create variables for the stage and the output, and then I created an event listener. It'll add event listeners to the arrow keys, which will be the main controls in the game. And then I created the game map itself. This is going to display the map, and it's just a double array, and each of these values are assigned different values. Like snow is 0. Like anywhere you see a 0, that's going to be the snow. Anywhere you see a 1, that's going to be the tree. And then the game objects map, that's going to be like your playable character, which is Rudolph, and the present, which you need to collect in order to win the game. So Rudolph is assigned a value of 2, and he's displayed right here. And at on the left-hand side, which you probably saw from the actual map, and number 3 is the present, which will be located right here. So each cell size is 64 pixels, which I've already established. And then you go through and then you define like all the rows and columns of the map to like pinpoint Rudolph's exact location. And then you define the arrow keys, and each of these is their unique ASCII code, which will respond to the actual keys on your keyboard. And then I create Rudolph's start position, or which will later become his current position, so that's his X and Y coordinates. And then you just loop through all the rows and the columns so that you'll pinpoint his exact location. And then you create a game message, which will show, will actually be the actual game message you see in the game. And then there's a render function which will render through the game. The key down handler is everything that will go on, like whenever you hit the up, down, and left and right arrow keys. So all this does is that it puts his exact location, whether you move him like up or down and then left and then right. This all just pinpoints his exact X and Y coordinates on the map. And then this switch statement shows like what kind of cell Rudolph is on, and then like if Rudolph hits the tree cell, the cell that contains the tree image, it'll say, "Oh no, you hit the tree," and then it'll lead you to the end of the game, which I'll explain later on. Snow cells will means that he'll just keep going through the game, and then once he hits the present, then that'll also end the game. And then this is the end game function. So in so I have um, two cases. If Rudolph comes in contact with the present, then um, the I'll remove the event listeners. So in other words, you can no longer control Rudolph's movements, or you can't use the arrow keys anymore. And it'll say you won. Now you can deliver the presents to the little kids, and then you'll be awarded 100 points as your score, and then it'll display your score. And then if Rudolph hits the tree, then you will lose the game. Then that means that you'll lose the game, and then you have to restart the game. And then the render function is basically just gives that illusion of Rudolph's movement throughout the map. So like it'll render through the loops. I mean, it'll render the game by looping through the map arrays. In other words, it'll go through all the rows and columns in the map, and then each cell will display the actual image. And so, like for any cell that shows the snow, it'll show that actual image of the snow. And then tree will be the tree image, and the present will be the actual present image. And then this part right here will actually show Rudolph being displayed on the map. And then you display the game message, and that's it. And so I'll go ahead and play the game itself, and then this just to give you an example of what happens on each event. So I'll restart the game, and all you have to do is just reload the page, and you can see the counter is counting down. And so I'll just stop Rudolph right there, and then you can see that the pop-up window saying time's up, and then you click OK, and I'm hitting the arrow keys right now, and you can see Rudolph is no longer moving. So that means you have to restart the game, and you get a score of 0. So I reload, and I'll show you, and then this is what happens when he hits one of the trees. See, he'll say, "Oh no, you hit the tree, you lost the game, and please try again." So this is what will happen when Rudolph reaches the present. You're awarded 100 points, and then it'll say that you won, and now you can deliver the present to the little kids. And what's even better is that you managed to reach the present before the timer runs up. And as an additional thing, like if you wanted, you can go up here to the timer, and then you can probably change the timer. Like if you want to make things easier for yourself, you can probably set it like 10 seconds or higher. So now you'll have plenty of time to reach the present. And see, I got there with only 3 seconds left. So you can definitely do that for your level of difficulty. I just set it at 6 seconds because I thought it was a pretty good challenge, and as I was developing this, I thought that would be a really good thing to do. I wanted to make this game as simple as possible, but I also wanted to make it as challenging as possible. So I just played around with the code like that, and I thought this game would be pretty enjoyable. And then that's it. I hope you have the opportunity to play my game, and I hope you really enjoy it.